side as low as -5 Celsius first thing. So it will be a chilly start to Thursday, but look at this, plenty of sunshine across the map there. Just some patchy cloud running into Kent, and there'll also be some patches of fog and cloud here and there elsewhere. But for the vast majority, it's just going to be a chilly and frosty but bright start to Thursday. Bright blue day follows with plenty of sunshine remaining. Any fog patches that we'll see in the morning will burn away during the morning into the lunchtime period. Patches of cloud here and there, and increasingly so across East Anglia and the southeast, so less sunshine by the afternoon in these locations. A bit more of a breeze coming in as well. That breeze will make it feel cold, but on the whole, temperatures around average for the time of year, 7 to 9 Celsius. Similar on Friday morning, but I think in the south we'll see a bit more cloud through the night and hence less widespread frost, but we'll also see increasingly some showers arriving into the south and southeast of England. Meanwhile, the best of the sunshine will be across Scotland and Northern Ireland, and into the start of the weekend that cloud will become more widespread, particularly in the south, thick enough to give some sleety or snowy weather at times.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
We're giving you not one, but 2 chances to win this month, with 2 prize bundles that include an incredible £10,000 in tax-free cash. But that's not all. You'll also get a brand new iPhone 16 and a £500 shopping voucher to spend at your favourite store. So why not be extra lucky this month? For a chance to win an iPhone, vouchers and £10,000 in cash, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB11 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 7th of March. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
It's Patrick Christys tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christys tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
isn't it? Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's 9 p.m. I'm Patrick Christys tonight. You are paying for illegal immigrants to have DJ lessons. You're also paying for them to have driving lessons and...
Shift over to the left as well. Feel in that stretch in the waist, the ribs, the lats.
You're also paying for them to do yoga classes. It's insane. Talking of insanity.
Yesterday, we heard the government offered £18 billion for Mauritius to take our territory in the Chagos Islands.
This is a military base that is vital to our national security.
Starmer refuses to deny giving 18 billion quid to Mauritius over Chagos, but
it cannot be, and I'm sure President Trump will tell him under no situation.
We have a world exclusive for you. Trump will block Chagos, says his former right-hand man, and... Bristol University is forcing students to go vegan. Is this fair? Plus...
I don't even know what all of this stuff means, but it's signed for her.
Meghan Markle is slammed for using the wildfires to prove how many celebrity friends she has, and you won't believe the latest on this monster.
We cash your card, mate.
Also tonight...
We want to bear down properly on the non-dom tax status.
Closing the tax loopholes that are currently left there by the Conservatives in their non-doms arrangements.
Labour have committed to getting rid of the non-dom tax status.
Rachel Reeves appears to have crashed the economy. I talked to a non-dom who's leaving Britain. On my panel tonight is the director of Popular Conservatives, Mark Littlewood, landlord and activist Adam Brooks, and journalist Nina Mishkov. Oh, and Trump's got a plan for Gaza.
The U.S. will take over the Gaza Strip, and we will do a job with it, too. We'll own it.
And he's not great with accents.
Where are you from? Oh, actually, it's a beautiful voice and a beautiful accent. The only problem is I can't understand a word you're saying.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Are we being run by people who don't like Britain? Next.
Patrick, thank you. I'm Katie Bowen. These are your top stories at 9 o'clock. The government's counter-terrorism prevent programme prematurely closed cases into Southport killer Axel Rudakabana. That's according to the Prevent Learning Review published this afternoon. Outlining the findings in the House of Commons, Security Minister Dan Jarvis has told MPs that the government has begun an internal review of the prevent thresholds and has accepted all 14 recommendations for improvements in the Prevent Learning Review. The review found that there were 15 contact points between Rudakabana and public services, including Prevent and the police, over the years. Also today, the families of the 3 Nottingham attack victims have demanded a full statutory inquiry, saying names must be named after an independent review has revealed killer Valdo Calacane's fear of needles prevented him from taking antipsychotic medication before the killings. Barnaby Webber, Grace O'Malley Kumar and Ian Coates were murdered in the summer of 2023 by Calacane. Health Secretary Wes Streeting says it's clear there were failings in how the care provided to Calacane was managed at every level. Grace's father, Dr. Sanjoy Kumar, says for the loss of our beautiful, brave daughter Grace, there must be change. Barnaby Webber's mother has called for a meeting with the Prime Minister. Elsewhere, the Prime Minister locked heads with Kemi Badenoch in Prime Minister's questions today over the Chagos Islands deal. The Conservative Party leader challenged Sir Keir Starmer on the money being spent, accusing Labour of spending money that belongs to our children and their children, labelling it an immoral surrender. The Prime Minister hit back by arguing that legal certainty was needed over the status of the islands and the strategically important Diego Garcia military base. Just a brief update coming out of the White House this evening. US President Donald Trump has not committed to putting US troops on the ground in Gaza as part of his proposal for a US takeover of the region. President Trump said during a meeting with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu yesterday that he wants the US to take over Gaza and turn it into the Riviera of the Middle East. And speaking at a press conference right now, the president has said he will sign an executive order to ban transgender athletes from women's sport, saying the war on women's sports is over and that this is about common sense. And finally, His Majesty the King has visited the Polish Social and Cultural Association today, viewing a newly opened art exhibition and attending a reception with members of the Polish community in the UK. His visit comes exactly 1 year on since his cancer diagnosis was announced by Buckingham Palace. During the reception, His Majesty heard from staff, volunteers and community members about the centre's significance and its vital work in strengthening the Polish community. Those are the latest GB News headlines. Now let's go back to Patrick.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Good evening, welcome along. I kickstart tonight's show with a world exclusive. We know that Prime Minister Keir Starmer has a weird obsession with giving the Chagos Islands away. The news last night was that he was willing to give 18 billion quid to Mauritius for them to take them. That's nearly the entire black hole. It's more than Mauritius's annual GDP, apparently. It's like giving someone your car and then giving them the money for your car as well. It doesn't make sense, and Starmer did not deny it when asked about it in the House of Commons earlier today.
This is a military base that is vital to our national security and to national security. A number of years ago, the legal certainty of that base was thrown into doubt. And let me, Mr. Speaker, let me be clear, and I'll pick my words carefully. Without legal certainty, the base cannot operate in practical terms as it should. That is bad for our national security, and it's a gift to our adversaries.
Well, now Mauritius is apparently trying to row back on the deal. They released a statement earlier on saying words to that effect. The whole thing is an absolute farce, so much so that Lib Dem leader Ed Davey, whose entire time in Parliament since the general election has been dedicated to challenging Keir, anyway, he actually decided to speak up and say that he thinks that this Chagos deal is mental as well. He questioned why the government is making significant payments to Mauritius up front at a time when winter fuel payments have been scrapped. It doesn't make any political, practical or financial sense as far as I can see. There is literally no case for it, which leads me to this conclusion. It's a grubby deal for Starmer's lawyer mates. Now, let's start by looking at who he appointed as our Attorney General, Lord Hermer, a man who has represented Gerry Adams, the group representing Shamima Begum. He's been caught as well slagging off the now President of the United States, Donald Trump, in this leaked audio recording.
The most prominent politician in the world. And he's also perhaps the most brazen liar that one has ever kind of come across in a political position. I mean, politicians have always lied, but this is on a different scale and of a different nature.
So Starmer apparently knew Hermer from their days at Doughty Street Chambers together, so they seem to be old friends and clearly share similar political views, which I think should be terrifying for us all. Hermer also reportedly represented Sri Lankan asylum seekers who we are now taking as part of this Chagos deal. Now, many people have suggested that he has a conflict of interest, and he has refused to say whether or not he will be making any money from legal cases like Gerry Adams or Chagos. I mean, if this was the Tories, this simply would not stand, would it? So perhaps Hermer needs to get this deal over the line. Do you know who else needs to get this deal over the line? Well, the lawyer for Mauritius, Philippe Sands. Mr Sands is a long-term friend of Keir Starmer's and even, reportedly, campaigned for him to become Labour leader. The only thing that makes sense about giving away the Chagos Islands and giving away 18 billion quid as well is if that's the price Starmer has to pay to keep his mate, the Attorney General, happy and his mate, the lawyer for Mauritius, happy. That's just my opinion, of course. Now, if the Tories did the same thing, I think they would be called corrupt. But here's the world exclusive for you. GB News spoke to Steve Bannon, President Trump's former right-hand man, who has actually been in contact with Trump's team in the last few days. Our US correspondent, Stephen Edgington, asked him about the Chagos deal, and here is what he had to say.
Actually shocked and stunned that even could be conceived. When Nigel approached me a couple of months ago and walked me through it, I go, isn't that where Diego Garcia is? And they go, yeah. And I go, it's impossible. You can't give that up. That's the one base in that vast ocean. It's the one thing you can pull into, and it's under our, it's under us. We have it now, but it cannot be. And I'm sure President Trump will tell him under no situation. This is one of the things I'm kind of stunned about with the British and being allies on something that's so central.
So there he is. He says that he's sure that Trump won't allow it. So I take that really to mean that it won't happen. And that would be humiliating for Starmer, wouldn't it? And now Starmer appears to have lost his cabinet on this, or at least a few of them. They say that they can't justify it to their constituents who've lost the winter fuel payment, whose council tax is going up, whose energy bills are rising. The Chagos deal can only have been designed by someone who hates Britain and is surrounded by other people who hate Britain. Is that really the reputation that Keir Starmer wants? Let's get thoughts from my panel this evening. The Director for Popular Conservatives, Mark Littlewood, landlord and activist Adam Brooks, and, of course, the journalist and broadcaster Nina Mishkov. Mark, I'll start with you on this. So let's just deal with that Steve Bannon stuff there. I mean, as far as he's concerned, having had conversations with the Trump team, I mean, it just really does not look like Trump's going to allow this to happen. It would be quite humiliating, wouldn't it?
It is, and Patrick, I agreed with many of your thoughts, but I am still, I have to say, deeply puzzled about what on earth the Prime Minister thinks he's doing. I haven't approved of many, indeed any, of Labour's policies since they came to power, but I could at least see some sort of rationale behind them. We've got to save some money here, we want to tax the richest there. I cannot get my head around why anyone thinks this is a good idea at all, surrendering British territory and paying to do so. Will Trump stop it? Possibly. I think there'll be an awful lot of pressure on Starmer to retreat. But, my God, he has gone headlong for this, such that the U-turn would be screeching and embarrassing. And I feel extremely uneasy about it. The only thing I can put it down to is an absolutely mad obsession with international law. That if an international court sort of leans in one direction, Starmer and his lawyer buddies feel that that is the word of God and we must comply with it, whatever the costs. But this is the most mysterious strategic decision I can think of any British government undertaking.
But Adam, if Steve Bannon is right there, then Trump, I suspect, is going to try to bully Keir Starmer into not giving this away. In much the same way he's bullied the Canadians, bullied the Mexicans, bullied the Colombians, bully anyone, won't he, really, to further America's interests. Look, it will be humiliating for Starmer.
I don't agree with foreign interference in our matters, but at the end of the day, Keir Starmer has got no right to do this. To give our territory away and for it to cost us, there's estimates between £240 per taxpayer and £480 per taxpayer, depending on the deal. Now, why should we pay to give away things that we already own? Now, you said about a car earlier. For me, the best analogy is it's like me giving my friend my garden shed and then paying my friend rent to use my own garden shed. How is that right? You know, I cannot understand. For me, you know, I wouldn't be, I'm not pointing fingers, but I wouldn't be surprised in 15, 20 years if we found out someone's got a lovely villa in Mauritius on the back of this deal.
Yeah, I mean, look, Nina, there are a lot of people now who are, when you just look at that network there of Hermer, of Philippe Sands and of Starmer, for a deal that does not appear to make a huge amount of practical, political or financial sense, you know, people are wondering whether or not there is something else going on here.
Well, I think that's taking it too far. I really do. And let's look at this deal. I mean, it's sheer hypocrisy of the Conservatives to rail against Starmer. Up until they were booted out by the British public, they were negotiating with Mauritius because, you know, the last one there was David Cameron as Foreign Secretary was negotiating.
He pushed back against it, no?
He was negotiating.
But he pushed back.
Don't call me love. It sounds very condescending.
Love.
Did you?
No.
I apologise.
Calm yourself down, Nick.
I apologise in that case.
OK.
But he did negotiate, and the point being that the International Court of Justice decreed that we have no rights to this territory. It was, you know, and in fact everybody's had a piece of it. The Portuguese, the Dutch, the French, everybody, and Britain got it in the early 1800s. In 1968, it became had its independence, and it's now British overseas territory. It's the the last of the Britain's African colonies, if you like. But it's the International Court of Justice. It's the United Nations.
Well, go on.
It's the United Nations.
That idea that we have that obligation. The United Nations is, you know, 2/3 of it are wholly undemocratic countries. I don't look to the United Nations as being the arbiter of all that is moral and just in the world. Quite the opposite. I mean, it's sometimes a useful talking shop to put people around the table. But if a United Nations body comes up with something which is absolutely clearly and transparently not in Britain's national interest, I expect the British government to rail against it, not to fold up, not to just roll over and die.
But the point being that Biden and the Biden administration wanted this deal. They wanted this deal, and so
when he was a bit loopy, to be fair.
Well, not the entire administration. Come on. So he was Starmer was trying to get it through before Trump came into power, and I've no doubt that if Trump doesn't want it, it won't happen. Let's face it.
Let's hope so. Look, I'm led to believe, from what I've researched today, that we wouldn't be bound by any International Court of Justice ruling on this. We could ignore that. But Keir Starmer, in his lawyer head, would never do that because he's worried about his lawyer friends.
No, he's worried about the law.
And no, we're not bound by the ICJ.
Just to be all clear, the bloke who is the lawyer for Mauritius did also apparently campaign to get Keir Starmer elected. So that does, just from an outsider's perspective, that's a bit weird.
This is one big lefty lawyer club.
Oh, this is ridiculous to say that. Come on. You know, sovereign territory. Why should we have rights to it? Anyway, it's in the middle of the Indian Ocean.
So should we give Gibraltar back?
Absolutely.
Oh, my goodness.
Absolutely. If the
I can hear the screams of the audience through the cameras.
If the people in Gibraltar wanted independence, let them.
For this. The Chagosians haven't.
But if they do, well, let's face it, the Chagosians are the ones who should be consulted on this.
Well, that would kill it stone dead.
But then you have to complicate the issue with the base, the US base. You know, it's called a UK-US, but the US base, which it really is, in Diego Garcia. You've got to maintain that.
One of the latest lines tonight is about this potential cabinet split over what Keir Starmer's done. Now, I've raised a few points over the course of my shows here, which is Starmer's used up a lot of political capital when it's come to things like pensioners, farmers, energy bills, all of that stuff. He's asked his MPs to line up behind him and back him on things that actually their constituents a lot of the time have found universally unpopular. And now I think we're seeing that dam break. That appears to be the latest noises, Mark, which is that at least 2 or 3 of his cabinet ministers have said, why are we doing this, especially when it comes to giving them money, when I have to go home on a Friday to my constituents and tell them that we're not helping them out with their fuel bills?
I mean, the election material, the campaigning leaflets from any opposition party write themselves, don't they? Wherever you're campaigning in the land, you know, the winter fuel allowance, you know, that's been pared back, a tax on farmers, that's been introduced, but suddenly we have to find £18 billion for the right to give away
over 99 years.
Over
99 years.
It's still real money. It's still real money.
The thing is,
why? How can that be a spending priority? I don't blame not just Labour cabinet ministers. If I was a Labour backbencher, I would be feeling very nervous because I say the Conservative, Reform and Liberal Democrat leaflets write themselves.
4.5 years. It's going to, you know, or nearly a bit more than that. 4.5 years. It doesn't matter because they're in power, and that's that. Suck it up, as I said.
Well, it might happen, but what Labour MPs are worried about is it will make them unpopular.
This may be the only way we can actually nail down legally the base.
Right.
That may be the only way you can do it.
Well, if you own it, you legally own it. But as a UK taxpayer, and I'm sure I speak for many watching at home, I do not want to give Chagos Islands away. I think we should keep it, or at least put a vote in Parliament to that
that's
effect.
the other aspect, isn't it? Maybe we should have some kind of vote on it. But there we go. A range of views. So you think that it's an obsession with international law. You think there might be something slightly squiffy going on with his lawyer mates. You think it's an obligation. So there we go. That's what it's about, isn't it? Having a discussion like that. All 3 different points of view. So good stuff. Anyway, talking of giving things away, here is the latest Great British giveaway. And you have 2 amazing prizes, prize bundles, in fact, that can be won. Here's all you need to know.
The Great British Giveaway is officially 1 year old, and we have a birthday treat for you. We're giving you not one, but 2 chances to win this month, with 2 prize bundles that include an incredible £10,000 in tax-free cash. But that's not all. You'll also get a brand new iPhone 16 and a £500 shopping voucher to spend at your favourite store. So why not be extra lucky this month? For a chance to win an iPhone, vouchers and £10,000 in cash, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB11 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 7th of March. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
OK, good luck, everybody. Coming up, the Chancellor's plan for growth has been dealt a devastating blow today. It's little wonder that multimillionaires are fleeing Britain in their droves. I thought it'd be quite interesting to chat to a multimillionaire to see why they're packing their bags. But up next, woke left-wing vegan students have gone to war with British farmers, all in the name of the climate crisis. Why are universities in Britain forcing students to go vegan? Stay tuned.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking, this is the nightmare for the Conservatives again. Down to earth. It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it? And most importantly, honest. Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them. Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
As we kick off 2025, many of us might be thinking about a bit of a wardrobe refresh, especially if you're over 50 and you feel like the high street doesn't quite cater to you.
Indeed. That's where our next guest, Mel Tillett, comes in. She's in the studio with us now.
Mel, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. That you are this accidental influencer. I love that you said that's the first time.
Yeah, it is. That's the first time I've heard it.
You can have that
Yes,
for free on
thank
TV.
you so much. It's quite true.
Tell us about your following. Obviously, an influencer that many people might typically think of would be someone in their teens, someone in their 20s, someone who's particularly social media savvy, using TikTok. Talk to us about your brand of influencer.
Well, our influencer, my kind of influence is over the older age group, the over 50s. For my business, I do a lot of live videos. I do them early in the morning at 7:30, which sounds ridiculous, but I know my ladies are up and about at that time having a cup of coffee or whatever that might be. And just being honest about day-to-day life. So my dogs are running about, my grandchildren are even sometimes in them, one thing and another. So it's just been purely by accident that I've got this really nice, loyal following, and I get lovely messages off ladies. I'll do things like, I'll tell them when I'm going for a mammogram, and I'll say, come on, everybody go for your mammogram.
That's brilliant.
All sort of health-conscious things. I've been a lot heavier than I am now, and I've slimmed down and lost some weight. I've been talking about that journey as well. And then ladies will ask me questions on the videos, and we chat about all sorts of different things. And now I'm getting messages every day, and people are loving the clothing ranges that we do. And it's just, I started off as a business, that's purely what I did, but it's turned out into this other, I get recognised places I go now, which is really weird.
It must be a huge benefit to your business as well.
We employ around about 50 people.
Wow.
And I'm quite open to my audience and saying, you know, while ever you keep buying offers, while ever you're loving our products and our clothing, you're keeping 50 people in jobs.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Headliners on GB News, 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point. He's lying. I mean, maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody
in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Welcome back. Now, very shortly, there is some breaking news tonight in relation to Prince Harry's US visa, so stay tuned for that. But first, is it wrong for universities to force students to eat plant-based foods? It's time now for the head-to-head. The University of Bristol, as well as Imperial College London, have become the latest British universities to install 100% plant-based menus on campus to, quote, end the climate crisis. During student union meetings yesterday, students at both universities voted to switch to a vegan catering menu, effectively banning all meat, dairy and fish products. So they join the 15 universities across Europe, which include Cambridge, Newcastle and University College London, which, by the way, I think makes us the vegan university capital of Europe. But anyway, they've gone totally vegan. So, celebrating the news, Holly Mayers, a fourth-year student at Imperial College London, said, "We are overjoyed to see our fellow students show that they take the climate crisis seriously and begin to move towards cheap, nutritious, delicious plant-based menus. Animal farming and fishing are wrecking the planet and the lives of millions across the globe. And now is the time to take a definitive step towards a plant-based future." Well, tonight I'm asking, is it wrong for unis to force veganism upon their students? Let me know your thoughts. Go to gbnews.com/your say. But going head-to-head on this now, our livestock farmer, Gareth Wynne-Jones, and the campaign coordinator at Plant-Based Universities Bristol, Agnes Sales. Both of you, thank you very much. I'm looking forward to this. Gareth, I'll start with you. If you took that statement at face value there, you would be forgiven for thinking that perhaps, Gareth, people like you are costing the lives of millions of people all around the world.
Yeah, well, my family's been farming this land for 375 years. It's full of fantastic wildlife, you know, and we are producing some of the best food on the planet. And we have a temperate climate in this country. We have a lot of rain. We have a lot of stuff called grass, which grows, which the ruminants then eat, and then it regrows. And we have was probably one of the biggest carbon catchments behind me on the Carneddau mountain range. So we're part of the solution, not the problem. And I'm drinking some real plant-based milk here because this has come from grass. It's plant-based, but the ruminants have turned this into lovely, lovely milk.
Oh, all right. Agnes, I'll whiz it on over to you. I mean, look, from some people might be forgiven for thinking, Agnes, that a small group of quite ideological students have voted to force their vegan views onto the wider student population. How would you respond to that?
I was just thinking I should have brought a glass of oat milk. Yeah, so this vote that happened was a democratic vote that happened as part of the student union. Any student could attend. I know at Bristol an email was sent out to the entire student body and anyone could come. And then the 150 people who did come listened to what we had to say and they voted amazingly, like by eye. You can see the videos in support of the motion. So I think it's clear that this is what students want. Young people want cheap, sustainable food, and this is what we're trying to achieve. And also through, years of outreach to students, talking to them on the streets and on campus, it's really clear that this is the move that students are wanting to make, and the universities are sort of lagging behind the demands of the students.
OK. Well, Gareth, do you buy that then, that this was a democratic vote and that actually this is what the students want? They want veganism on campus now?
Yeah, the majority of the other students are in a pub drinking or eating a kebab, I would say. It's only the ones that, are really believing in their lunacy have turned up into that. I'm not disrespecting you, but I do believe in freedom of choice for everybody. And I think that's, as a student, you're taking away the freedom of choice to the meat eaters that come into that campus, which is quite a sad situation. In my opinion, as a young person, I think you should look at that. we vote for things and we have to go with them. But every person that wants to eat meat or drink milk will not be, welcome into your campus anymore, which is a sad situation in today's society.
Yeah, I mean, I just come back to that. I get that there was some form of democratic vote here. I'm not knocking that. I think 150 students out of a whole student base is not an overwhelming turnout, is it? But what do you make of the idea that actually you are kind of forcing your views on people here? I mean, what's wrong with why should someone who wants a burger not be able to get a burger?
I also agree that, choice is really important. And this is not about trying to change the individual diets of any individual, but it's instead about like a systemic transition by our institutions. No motion passing will ever restrict the foods that students can take on campus. They can eat and take in whatever food they want.
You are removing their choice, though, Agnes, to be fair, aren't you? I get what you're saying, but you've said that you believe in people's choice, but you've literally just voted to remove people's choice, haven't you?
Well, at Bristol, our vote has actually campaigned to get the student union to help us lobby against the university and to really increase the amount of affordable plant-based foods. And I think the main priority of students at the moment is affordability. I know at Bristol we have, a few different places where there's £1 soups, £2 curries, and they're all vegan and the line's out the door. And I think, if people really are desperate for a burger or for a sandwich, they can go to the Sainsbury's down the road. But I think the purpose of universities is to be the place that provides that affordable, sustainable and healthy plant-based food to students.
All right, Gareth, the accusation here, I'm going to read the quote out here, right, is that animal farming, which you do, and fishing are, quote, wrecking the planet and the lives of millions across the globe. I mean, how do you respond to that?
Well, it's absolute poppycock. It's rubbish. There is some forms of agriculture and fishing that aren't helping the environment. That's a definite fact. We can't hide away from that. But look, I'm a regenerative farmer. I believe in sustainable food production. I couldn't grow my crops, my fruit on this land without the ruminants. We're high up here on the Carnarvon mountain range. We've got poor soil fertility. I need them cows. I utilise the wool of my sheep to put around my cabbages, my cauliflowers to keep the weeds down. That feeds the soil to feed my family. I'm a believer. My daughter is in Bristol in university, believe it or not. I travel down there and it's lovely to see the different cultures there. But look, I'm a believer in protecting the planet and going forward. And I don't want to disillusion you, but please, your food is going to be flown from all corners of the earth. You're not going to have an idea what's died for you to be fed. If you want to understand, go onto a farm, start to understand how seasonal, local food's produced. Because I can tell you, if I come into that campus and I'm going to find your avocados and your oat milk that's been flown and shipped from all over the country, you have absolutely contradicted everything you've just said.
All right, guys. Well, look, we could carry this on, and indeed we may well have to at some point in the future as more universities might get on board with it. But can I say thank you very much, both of you. It is great to have you on the show. Livestock farmer Gareth Wynne-Jones there, and the campaign coordinator at Plant-Based Universities Bristol, Agnes Sales. Have a great evening, both of you. Thank you. Coming up later on this evening, we've got a bit of this.
Guys, I don't even know what all of this stuff means, but it's signed for her.
Oh, grief. Meghan Markle's been slammed for her latest exploit, supposedly helping victims of the California wildfires, still managing to squeeze in a healthy dose of A-list name-dropping along the way. And I've got not an exclusive story, a breaking news for you about Prince Harry's US visa. But first, the Chancellor's plan for growth has been dealt a devastating blow today. It's little wonder now that millionaires are fleeing Britain in their droves. This is due to the non-dom tax rate. Well, I thought, why don't I actually try to talk to one of these millionaires to find out why they are leaving and why it might be bad news for, frankly, most of us who aren't millionaires. That's next.
I hope it doesn't rain.
Don't worry about it.
It'll spoil our holiday.
Relax, we're totally covered.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hi there. If you're looking for some winter sun, you will find a little in the Greek islands, although it will be windy. Fine in Italy and across much of Iberia. although it is going to turn more unsettled through Iberia and, in fact, Central Europe as these weather systems move in during the next few days. But for Thursday, at least, plenty of sunshine for Italy. We've got that strong wind blowing through the Greek islands and a few showers associated with it. Otherwise, largely fine. And then the more unsettled weather arrives at the weekend.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello again and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Skies will clear across the UK overnight, leading to a widespread frost, but a sunny day for most of us on Thursday. High pressure is why we're seeing clear skies. Sunshine has been prevalent across England and Wales. We've seen showers further north, but as that high pressure builds in from the south, skies will clear up and down the country. Just some patchy cloud there for the Highlands and a bit more of a breeze for the north and west of Scotland, perhaps along the south and southeast coast of England. Otherwise, with light winds for the vast majority and those clear skies, we'll see a widespread frost. Temperatures in main urban areas, -1 to 1 or 2 Celsius, but in sheltered parts of the countryside as low as -5 Celsius first thing. So it will be a chilly start to Thursday, but look at this, plenty of sunshine across the map there. Just some patchy cloud running into Kent, and there'll also be some patches of fog and cloud here and there elsewhere. But for the vast majority, it's just going to be a chilly and frosty but bright start to Thursday. Bright blue day follows with plenty of sunshine remaining. Any fog patches that we'll see in the morning will burn away during the morning into the lunchtime period. Patches of cloud here and there, and increasingly so across East Anglia and the southeast, so less sunshine by the afternoon in these locations. A bit more of a breeze coming in as well. That breeze will make it feel cold, but on the whole, temperatures around average for the time of year, 7 to 9 Celsius. Similar on Friday morning, but I think in the south we'll see a bit more cloud through the night and hence less widespread frost, but we'll also see increasingly some showers arriving into the south and southeast of England. Meanwhile, the best of the sunshine will be across Scotland and Northern Ireland, and into the start of the weekend that cloud will become more widespread, particularly in the south, thick enough to give some sleety or snowy weather at times.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Patrick Christys tonight. Well, she attempted to kickstart economic growth last week with a flurry of announcements, but the Chancellor Rachel Reeves has been dealt a massive blow today with the tax and spending watchdog reportedly preparing to slash Britain's growth forecast. Well, it's little wonder, is it, that hundreds, if not thousands of millionaires are now fleeing the UK, especially with Labour's non-dom tax raid set to come into force in April. Well, multi-millionaire castle owner Anne Kaplan-Mulholland and her plastic surgeon husband are the latest to pack their bags. I'm very pleased to say that I am joined by Anne now. Anne, thank you very, very much for joining us here tonight.
Thanks for having me here. This is an important issue.
It is. So let's just ground it first. Do you mind me asking, so what are you and your husband worth, roughly?
Between around $500 million, probably more.
And as it currently stands, you have non-dom tax status, but you do pay, you contribute to the British economy.
We contribute on our income here. We contribute. I have a castle. We have 100 employees. They're paying tax. I pay tax on my income. My husband pays tax on his income here. But we have businesses and companies worldwide and properties. We don't want to be taxed, as we've come in here, on our worldwide income. Who wants to be double taxed? Especially at the level that we're at, that you're talking, hundreds of millions of dollars in tax.
A year?
We pay a lot of tax
right.
on our income. So on capital gains, on the sale of businesses, who wants to do that?
Okay.
And who would stay for it? No one will stay for it. What Rachel Reeves has done, or I should call her Reckless Reeves, has done is she's just, the third runway she's putting down at Heathrow, all the billionaires can just get on their planes and take off from that runway. It's a good thing she's talking about that runway because they're all leaving.
Because obviously her response to that, I imagine, and lots of people within the Labour Party's response, and maybe even some people watching this now, would say, well, yeah, if you are worth a huge amount of money, then maybe you could afford to pay a bit more tax.
Absolutely, you could, but not when you're in our position. And many of the people here, the 72,000, probably about 40,000 of the 72,000, are very, very wealthy. And Rachel has options. She can do what we're doing. We're heading off to Italy. Now, all of these...
You're just leaving. You're off.
We're just leaving.
Right.
We don't want to leave. I have to put that... We don't want to leave. My mother's English. I went to university here, did my doctorate here. I want to stay here. This is where I consider home. I'm half English. I don't look half English, but I'm half English. This is our home. My husband is Irish. We want to stay here. But we have to leave because we came here under the premise that this was a non-domicile tax, really advantaged place for people that want to invest in the country.
So, I mean, instead of basically the taxpayer and the government getting something from you, I imagine still a large sum, given the amount of figures and the wealth that you're talking about now, you're going to be leaving, which means that you probably won't really be paying any tax here going forward. You also seem relatively confident, I think, that most people in your position are going to be leaving as well, which actually, when you add all of that up, will cost the taxpayer quite a lot of money, you think?
I think they're thinking there's going to be between 12 billion plus 4 billion of income coming in. If the tax, they're assuming that people won't leave. What they're going to do is they're going to lose all the tax and all of the money they're getting right now, all of the investment into luxury, the luxury homes that everyone is investing in, the luxury goods, the restaurants, the hotels, all the money. We're a gift coming into this country because we spend money in the country. Otherwise, there's no one going to be here, no one going to spend money. This is a no-brainer for anybody with wealth that has come in under a different regime. They're just going to leave. And all the countries, Italy, Switzerland, they're rolling out the red carpet and saying, come on in here.
Well, that's interesting. So, yes, so what are those countries doing for you? Are they now looking at what's going on in Britain and they are seeing that people like yourselves are being conceivably penalised a bit? Yeah. They're actually on manoeuvres now, are they, to try to entice you over there?
They're just not changing their regime. We pay, when we go to Italy, €200,000 for one person and €35,000 for a spouse and any extra children. So $235,000 a year we pay into Italy. Now, can you imagine if Reckless Reeves said, OK, why don't we charge £200,000? We have two options. You can do her option, or you can pay £200,000 every year, same type of deal, and then you take 72,000 non-doms, but just say it's 40,000, but 72,000, you could get billions and billions of dollars, of pounds in income a year instead of losing it all. So she has an opportunity to get that money and keep the wealthy here. Now, people say, OK, bye-bye, we don't want the millionaires. We don't want...
Because they are saying that. Some people are saying that. I mean, some people within the Labour Party and people who write for The Guardian are literally saying, well, good riddance then, if you're not willing to pay.
Yeah, wanting to pay on worldwide assets, worldwide income. This isn't why we came here. So when you're in our position, you look at all of the, and there's many around the world where you can live in preferable tax jurisdictions. You choose that. We chose England for all the other reasons. We wanted to live in England. We're used to being in England. So all the people like us are going through that Rolodex of choices and saying, England's off. We're not doing it. And they're not going to come in on her new, what she said, well, you can come in and you can invest at a referral rate for 4 years. They're not going to do it.
No. OK, well, can I just say a massive thank you to you for coming on and for talking about it all, and I think at least for trying to come up with a couple of solutions for it as well. You know, I think it is a fascinating topic. I am under absolutely no illusions that myself, and like 99.9% of people who are watching this show, listening to this show, will never know anything like your kind of wealth. I think the flip side to it is we shouldn't resent people who do have that kind of wealth, and actually maybe at times look at the bigger picture and think, well, all right, they might not be paying as much tax per head as some people, but they're still paying a huge amount of money. Do we want to lose all of that? Because people in your position are highly mobile, aren't they? So there we go. But thank you very much. It's been tremendous to have you on the show. I hope to have you back on. And it's unfortunate that we couldn't do this interview stood up, actually, because you have the most remarkable outfit on. I don't know if you might be able to just, show that when you walk out. But anyway, there we go. Coming up, we are giving away yoga classes, DJ lessons, PlayStations and driving lessons as well to illegal migrants, believe it or not. And it's been absolutely astonishing the amount of money that you, the taxpayer, are spending for them. I am going to give you the total amount that you, the taxpayer, have been paying on luxuries for people who frankly broke into Britain. But first...
I don't even know what all of this stuff means, but it's signed for her.
Meghan Markle has been slammed for her latest exploit, supposedly helping victims of the California wildfires, while, of course, still managing to drop a healthy dose of A-list names. I'll reveal all very, very shortly. Stay tuned.
I'm Andrew Pearce. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Feathers McGraw, Wallace and Gromit's their villain, has become an unlikely hit at UK tattoo parlours. He's menacing.
He is, yeah.
And
in fact, he doesn't speak, and he's got this glove on top of his head trying to convince us he's a chicken or something.
And that is a real tattoo that someone has decided to have there. What do you two think about tattoos? Are they express themselves? Or?
I love it. So I've basically got Dr. King.
There we go.
Me.
Oh, there he goes. Nice. He's showing us.
If you can't fly, run.
Nice.
It's probably slightly more meaningful than having the villainous penguin.
Oh,
come on, Trey, you won't get Feathers McGraw. Maybe not. It's kind of got that kind of, you know, when you go abroad and you're Ibiza, Magaluf,
Tenerife,
and you get a quick tattoo. It's looking like that,
chest,
or like a pirate or something. It's kind of got that vibe, not for me. However, I do get the sentimentality around it. You know, some people have grown up on Wallace and Gromit and they love it and it has meaning. And he is a well-written character, so I get it.
Brilliant, isn't it?
I prefer my tattoos a bit more meaningful.
Bit more, yeah. I feel like as well, there's a surge in it. Lots of people have had it, but then is it then going to become unpopular because of it? And how many people regret the tattoos? Apparently, not just 14% of people regret tattoos.
Wow.
See, I think that's where the meaningful side comes into it. I've got a couple of meaningful tattoos, and I know I will never get bored of them. Not one on my wrist, one on my ankle. They're not hidden, but I think because they mean something to me, I'll never get bored.
Yes, exactly. I think that's important. If you're gonna, you know, a tattoo's for life, isn't it?
That's the thing.
It's got to mean something.
Have you not? I'd be indecisive. I think I'd get something.
I want to keep on my body forever.
If I had about 6 or 7 pints and then stumbled into a tattoo parlour,
you'd come out with
something chaotic.
A disaster could happen. Then I walk out. Oh no, I've got this for the rest of my life.
You might become addicted.
Well, let's hope not.
Some people do.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Okoye, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Bev Turner. Thank you for joining us on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Patrick Christys Tonight. So coming up, are Brits being treated as second-class citizens? You're paying for illegal Microsoft DJ lessons, apparently. But first, Meghan Markle has been accused of posting a tone-deaf Instagram video. This is, of course, for a young victim of the LA wildfires. But somehow, she, of course, managed to name-drop all of her lovey mates. Here we go.
All that she'd been looking for in her home
was the t-shirt from the Billie Eilish concert that she had just gone to. So I thought of everybody that I knew, and I made a voice note, and I was like, please, can someone get this voice note to Billie Eilish? Here's what I'm asking. You guys, I don't even know what all of this stuff means, but it's signed for her. Is that a huge thank you, Billie Eilish? This is going to mean so much to her. And honestly, to Adam Levine and Bahati, you guys helped get this over the line. To everyone who's showing up for people in big and small ways.
Just think, hang on a minute, did she just drop a name? Oh, Scotty, there we go. Anyway, showbiz journalist Sarah Louise Robertson is here with us. So, I mean, some people will say, hey, that's a nice thing she's done there. She's got nice things for people.
Yeah, a child, a 5-year-old maybe. If we all live in fairyland, which Meghan Markle obviously does. I mean, people call her a Royal Highness. I say her Royal Priceness. She's literally the Royals version of Katie Price. She just can't seem to get it right. And she's always self-promoted. She's obsessed with the camera. She keeps saying, oh, I don't want the limelight, her and Harry. Yet here she is again, putting herself front and forward of what is a terrible, terrible human tragedy to affect Los Angeles. And Meghan is making it all about herself and letting us all know Princess Meghan's there to save the day. And here she is with some famous friends. She just happens to know some famous people, Patrick, that she's bringing on board. It's all about her. Oh, look, I got Billie Eilish, everybody. I know Adam Levine. We don't really care. Why do you have to make it about yourself, Meghan? OK, you want to help that poor young girl, that teenage girl who lost her T-shirt. I mean, I do wonder if really the story was quite as Meghan delivered it, but Meghan's put her spin on it. You want to help that person. You can do that without having to make this nauseating, cringing video.
I mean, I think there's some other bits and bobs that they will say that they've done, and they have done. I think they've visited food banks and hugged some people in front of the child remains of their former homes, and I think they opened their own home to some people as well. So, I mean, they have done their bit a little bit, haven't they, Meghan and Harry?
They have. It was very nice. They went down, and they could have just left it there. They did their bit. They've showed that they care, and I do believe that they probably do. They do, of course. They're human beings. They couldn't not. But Meghan just seems to just destroy. She does something good, and then she just...
I like the way she said, I made a voice note, like she crafted it.
Yeah.
You know, so it's just what that involves, really, is pressing the record button,
exactly.
talking into
and again, she seems to think that she's doing something wondrous to save people, and it's all about this adulation. She wants people to go, yes, Meghan, you're amazing, you're like Princess Diana, you're the hero of the hour. They could have just left it as they were. They visited the wildfires.
I mean, it's not quite landmines, is it, to be fair? It's not landmines or homeless. It is Billie Eilish signing a top.
Exactly. And she could have done that privately and done a private joke. Here's an example. Keanu Reeves, amazing Hollywood actor. Keanu does so much for charity, but it's private behind the scenes, and it's where the people come out.
George Michael did a lot privately.
George Michael used to put the Christmas tree up in Highgate, paid for the Christmas tree because Highgate Council was too tight to do so. Yeah. So George
He did
Michael
all sorts. He gave someone off Deal or No Deal about 10 grand once, apparently. But
20.
Well, there you go. Sorry, George. Yeah. But look, when it comes to Prince Harry, this is something I was teasing as well. So shortly before I came on air, it looks as though a judge in America is now wanting to release his visa documents, doesn't it, really? So this now makes it possible that the public might be aware of whether or not Harry did lie on his visa, and under the Trump regime, that could have consequences.
Well, it could have consequences if Trump decides to do something. I mean, you pointed out earlier, Trump is hot at the moment on people who are having legal visas and not being there. So it's whether Trump does decide to go for this and say, yes, will he order the files, and then we'll find out, did Prince Harry fib on his visa form? If he has found out to have fibbed about drug taking and glossed that over so he could have his visa for America, then it doesn't look good if Trump then gives him a pass, a green light to stay in the country. It'll be interesting to find out if he did. I don't think Harry has fibbed. So I think he's going to be OK. But if he has, then the onus is on Trump as to how he deals with that going forward. So the pressure's then on Trump to do something about that. Yeah. So this is where we've got to now. But will Trump go ahead and say, yes, let's release the files? I don't think he will. I don't think he's going to want any drama.
Well, he does like Trump does like the royal family.
King Charles. He loves the royal family.
Exactly.
And he'll say it's a private matter. between the family to deal with.
Well,
That's what
there
I
you
think
go.
will happen.
So thank you very much. Always an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. I must say, I feel like I'm letting the side down now. My last two guests have been incredibly glamorous, and I'm just sitting here. But there we go. Thank you so much. Well, coming up, yoga classes, DJ lessons, PlayStations, driving lessons. That is just a flavour of what illegal immigrants have been getting for free at the expense of you, the British taxpayer. The total amount being spent on these migrant luxuries will shock you. I'm going to reveal it all very, very shortly. Frankly, I think the whole thing is absolutely ridiculous, so stay tuned for all of that.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello again and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Skies will clear across the UK overnight, leading to a widespread frost, but a sunny day for most of us on Thursday. High pressure is why we're seeing clear skies. Sunshine has been prevalent across England and Wales. We've seen showers further north, but as that high pressure builds in from the south, skies will clear up and down the country. Just some patchy cloud there for the Highlands and a bit more of a breeze for the north and west of Scotland, perhaps along the south and southeast coast of England. Otherwise, with light winds for the vast majority and those clear skies, we'll see a widespread frost. Temperatures in main urban areas, -1 to 1 or 2 Celsius, but in sheltered parts of the countryside as low as -5 Celsius first thing. So it will be a chilly start to Thursday, but look at this, plenty of sunshine across the map there. Just some patchy cloud running into Kent, and there'll also be some patches of fog and cloud here and there elsewhere. But for the vast majority, it's just going to be a chilly and frosty but bright start to Thursday. Bright blue day follows with plenty of sunshine remaining. Any fog patches that we'll see in the morning will burn away during the morning into the lunchtime period. Patches of cloud here and there, and increasingly so across East Anglia and the southeast, so less sunshine by the afternoon in these locations. A bit more of a breeze coming in as well. That breeze will make it feel cold, but on the whole, temperatures around average for the time of year, 7 to 9 Celsius. Similar on Friday morning, but I think in the south we'll see a bit more cloud through the night and hence less widespread frost, but we'll also see increasingly some showers arriving into the south and southeast of England. Meanwhile, the best of the sunshine will be across Scotland and Northern Ireland, and into the start of the weekend that cloud will become more widespread, particularly in the south, thick enough to give some sleety or snowy weather at times.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Want to be one of 2 lucky Great British giveaway winners? That's right, you could win one of 2 prize bundles, which includes a brand new iPhone 16, £500 in shopping vouchers to spend in your favourite store, and an incredible £10,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. What would you spend that cash on? For a chance to win an iPhone, vouchers and £10,000 in cash, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB11 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 7th of March. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either. This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
Because the failure is...
You're
the failure is...
deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
It's 10 p.m. I'm Patrick Christys. Tonight. You are paying for illegal immigrants to have DJ lessons. You are also paying for them to have driving lessons, and...
Hips shift over to the left as well, feeling that stretch in the waist, the ribs, the lats.
You are paying for them to do yoga classes, and you won't believe the very latest on this absolute monster.
Are we cash your card, mate?
Going to be joined by the daughter of Sir David Amos. It just turns out that that Southport story has got even worse. On my panel tonight is the director of Popular Conservatives, Mark Littlewood, landlord and activist Adam Brooks, and journalist Nina Mishkov. Oh, and President Trump has got a big plan for Gaza.
The U.S. will take over the Gaza Strip, and we will do a job with it, too. We'll own it.
And it turns out that he's not great with accents.
Where are you from? Oh, actually, it's a beautiful voice and a beautiful accent. The only problem is I can't understand a word you're saying.
We've all been there, haven't we, to be fair? Get ready, Britain, here we go. You are paying for illegal immigrants to become nightclub DJs. Next.
Patrick, thank you. I'm Katie Bowen. These are your top stories at 10 o'clock. The government's counter-terrorism prevent programme prematurely closed cases into Southport killer Axel Rudakabana. That's according to the Prevent Learning Review published today. Outlining the findings in the House of Commons, Security Minister Dan Jarvis has told MPs that the government has begun an internal review of the prevent thresholds and has accepted all 14 recommendations for improvements in the Prevent Learning Review. The review found that there were 15 contact points between Rudakabana and public services, including Prevent and the police, over the years. Also today, the families of the 3 Nottingham attack victims have demanded a full statutory inquiry, saying names must be named after an independent review has revealed killer Valdo Callaghan's fear of needles prevented him from taking antipsychotic medication before the killings. Barnaby Webber, Grace O'Malley Kumar and Ian Coates were murdered in the summer of 2023 by Callaghan. Health Secretary Wes Streeting says it's clear there were failings in how the care provided to Callaghan was managed at every level. Grace's father, Dr. Sanjoy Kumar, says for the loss of our beautiful, brave daughter Grace, there must be change. Barnaby Webber's mother has called for a meeting with the Prime Minister. A brief bit of breaking news this evening. It's understood that Grenfell Tower is set to be demolished. Bereaved families of the fire were reportedly told of the government's decision this evening at a meeting with Deputy Prime Minister Angela Rayner. The government has previously said there would be no changes to the site before the 8th anniversary of the tragedy in June. The Prime Minister locked heads with Kemi Badenoch in Prime Minister's questions today over the Chagos Islands deal. The Conservative Party leader challenged Sir Keir Starmer on the money being spent, accusing Labour of spending money that belongs to our children and their children, labelling it an immoral surrender. The Prime Minister hit back by arguing that legal certainty was needed over the status of the islands and the strategically important Diego Garcia military base. And finally, a brief update coming out of the White House this evening. US President Donald Trump has not committed to putting US troops on the ground in Gaza as part of his proposal for a US takeover of the region. President Trump said during a meeting with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu yesterday that he wants the US to take over Gaza and turn it into the Riviera of the Middle East. And speaking at a press conference this evening, the president has said he will sign an executive order to ban transgender athletes from women's sport, saying the war on women's sports is over and that this is about common sense. Those are the latest GB News headlines. Now let's go back to Patrick.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Can I just reveal something to you? I'll be talking about a little bit later on in the show. I've just had the first look at tomorrow's Daily Telegraph, and the first proper Conservative Party policy is on the front of it, so I'll reveal all very, very shortly. But before that, I am about to reveal the absolutely mental things that you, the British taxpayer, are funding for illegal immigrants. Are you ready? So we all know that when they break into Britain, they get new clothes and shoes, they get free accommodation, some of it 4-star hotels, they can get priority access to social housing, they get mobile phones, they have access to on-site GPs, private healthcare and dentistry. If they have children, then they can get a free education. And if they have any trouble understanding exactly how much free stuff you're giving them, then we'll throw in an interpreter and they can be told this glorious news in their own language. Of course, if there is ever any issue with all of this, or we dare to detain any of them, then they also get free legal representation from a group of, in my view, traitorous lawyers who will then just take a cut of the whopping great big compensation payment their illegal migrant clients inevitably get. But it gets worse. And again, I ask, are you ready? We are paying for illegal immigrants to learn how to become nightclub DJs. Croydon, a council placed into special measures with £500 million of unpaid debt, is sending your money to help make illegal migrants DJs. And with that, I present to you DJ Madapasa. Mada. Good stuff. From the deck of a small boat to the decks of Glastonbury Festival. Now, DJ Madapasa probably shouldn't drink alcohol, which means that he can drive to all of his gigs, which is just as well, because in Oxfordshire, taxpayers are paying for illegal immigrants to have driving lessons and take their driving test. Obviously, being a DJ is a high-stress job, so you'll need to decompress. Just as well that some local councils are now paying for illegal immigrants to take yoga classes. Bristol Council, which faces 53 million quid in required savings, spent £270,000 of Home Office grants taking migrants to football matches as well. They are being given free PlayStations. Now, I Googled it earlier, and apparently a Sony PlayStation 5 Pro is £700. Parents save up all year and still can't afford that for their own kids, and we give stuff like that to illegals. Cardiff Council is teaching illegals circus skills. I reckon they've already got quite good at that because we know loads of them can juggle having one family abroad and one here in Britain, and loads of them know how to do a disappearing act, don't they? But guess what? If you decide that you want to complain about the fact that a young man who has just broken into your country is getting a free phone, clothes, house, education, healthcare, dentistry, driving lessons, legal advice, PlayStation, tickets to the football and a spot of yoga at the weekends, well, that young illegal immigrant will report you to the police for a hate crime because Labour councils are now training asylum seekers on how to report hate crimes. In Essex, the police, who obviously don't have any proper crimes to solve, went and ran a training day so newly arrived Afghans can learn how to recognise a hate crime and report it. Interesting, isn't it? Because there have been multiple allegations of some migrants harassing young schoolgirls. So perhaps the police could focus on that. I mean, you can see it now, can't you, in those yoga classes that I mentioned earlier. OK, class, we're doing 2 of your favourite poses today. We start with the illegal entry, and then gently move into the low lunge towards a girl in school uniform. I mean, if you wonder what illegal immigrants get for free in Britain, imagine everything you can think of, then add a few more things onto that list as well. Nuts, isn't it? Let's get thoughts from my panel. Director of Popular Conservatives, Mark Littlewood, landlord and activist, Adam Brooks, and then journalist, Nina Mishkov. Well, I mean, yoga lessons, nightclub DJing, driving lessons.
Yeah.
I mean, well, sorry, but why are we giving this to people?
It beggars belief, Patrick, and I always think whatever politicians say, either at a national or a local level, the real way you can judge their priorities is how they spend money. Right? And look, for asylum seekers, you've got to provide the sort of bare subsistence, right? I mean, if somebody turns up and we haven't processed them yet, you've got to put a roof over their head, a couple of, meals a day, that kind of thing. But this is just beggars belief, doesn't it? I mean, how on earth? And it's, you would have thought these councils were rolling around in surplus money that they didn't know what to do with. Quite the opposite. We've got local government about to go to the wall, and this is apparently their priorities. But as I say, I've always been of the views, I've sat on this sofa, Patrick, and said it to you a million times before. If you can get the processing done more rapidly, you can cut costs, right? If we can turn around somebody's application in 18 days rather than 18 months. And in those 18 days, I guess you get basic medical provision, basic food, and a roof over your head. But no DJing, no driving lessons, no yoga classes, no football tickets, completely farcical.
No, or indeed PlayStation, which you're a father, right?
I'm a father.
I don't know if your kids are into gaming, but it costs a lot of money.
I've got it written down here. There are poor kids in this country that would dream of having a PlayStation, yet we're giving these freeloading chancers PlayStations in their rooms. And I'll tell you why we're doing that, Patrick. A family member of mine is a painter and decorator. He's done these hotels. He's had to do them up once they've left. Poo up the walls. They've burnt the carpets. It's disgusting. They wreck the hotels. What are they going to do when they're out of these hotels? These people should not be here. We should be deporting these straight away. They're clearly chancers. Get rid.
Well, Nina, I mean, look, realistically, why should someone who's just broken into Britain learn how to play a DJ set?
Well, obviously, at first sight, it looks completely ludicrous, doesn't it? It's bonkers. And let's get one thing straight. It hasn't started under the Labour government. It's not started under a Labour council necessarily. It's been going since 2022. In various places. Yep. So let's just analyse why they would be doing that. And Mark quite rightly pointed out it was the backlog. The backlog is horrendous. So instead of processing people rapidly so you can move them on or move them out...
We don't have to move them towards a football match, though, do we?
No, but here's the thing. So somebody has thought, well, look, you talk about... You very graphically talked about how they are perving on, say, young girls, OK? Yeah. Well, to try and prevent these young men, because they're mostly, as you would admit, young men, from just lurking about a hotel, give them something to do. They're bored. Yoga's a very good idea.
Get them back on a boat and sail off to another country.
You can't do that. You absolutely cannot do that. The fact of the matter is they are here and they are our problem. Nobody likes it, Adam. Nobody thinks it's a brilliant idea that our borders are so leaky. I don't think it. But let's be pragmatic. Right. We are faced with this situation. We have got groups of young men who are bored, OK, and cooped up. No, but
I get bored.
No, but you have they have nothing. They are not allowed. They are not allowed to work. So give them something to do. And if you equate it with the young guys and knife crime. Knife crime is mostly committed between 3 and 9 p.m. because those kids have nothing to do. Do them. So occupy them. Occupy them.
Here is the problem, right? People from all cultures, all backgrounds, young, old, male and female, respond to incentives. And if effectively our system is saying, if we're a bit worried that you're going to go down to the local girls' school, please fill in this form here and we'll give you a PlayStation and some football tickets. Guess what? People are going to rock up and sign that. I don't think that it's our responsibility to dissipate the boredom of the people.
It's our responsibility to keep our communities safe. Keep our communities safe.
Sure, but the idea that the best way of keeping Britain's streets and young girls safe is to splurge out on PlayStations, football tickets and some DJ.
I agree there are some daft aspects to this.
Okay. I'll tell you what, I've got an alternative that maybe the taxpayer wouldn't be so angry about. Why don't the councils send in teachers to these hotels and start teaching them English?
Perfect.
90% of these people cannot speak English. They're never going to work a day's in their lives here. They're always going to be on benefits.
Yeah.
They're never going to be deported. Let's just remember, it's £5.4 billion per year the taxpayer has to stump up for hotels and all this.
Yeah.
5.4 billion, 4 times what the pensioners need for their winter fuel allowance.
Now, Neil, one of the aspects is I get that. Look, all of this started under the Tory government, etc. Absolutely fair enough, 100%. But we revealed there that under certain Labour councils now, they are teaching some of these migrants how to recognise and then report a hate crime. Is that necessary, do you think?
I think when there's so much anti-migrant and anti-Islamic rhetoric, there may well be a good reason for it. Because instead of trying to integrate people, instead of trying to bring them into our way of life, we are instantly putting up barriers.
I don't want them in our way of life.
There you are, you see?
I don't want them. And I won't lie to the viewers, and I won't lie to anyone. They should not be here.
Who are them?
Them. Those that come here illegally should not be here. Their chances...
By international law, they are not illegal. Any individual has the right to go to a country and
they're going to be British citizens
refuge.
in 5 years.
Well, in that case... Fine.
It's not fine.
If they are, and what are you going to do about it? You're going to go round them all up? What would you do? Round them up? Send them to Guantanamo Bay?
I'm going to keep expressing my view on my platforms and on channels like this, and hopefully the people that I voted to represent us start listening and stop ignoring us, stop spending our taxpayers' money.
These people are here now, and they are going to be coming, and hopefully less of them will be coming, because don't think that the Starmer government is not seeing this as a huge problem and doing all that they can to stop it. No, they don't. They don't see them as voters.
You've got to remove some of the magnet that's bringing them here, right? You've got to do that. You've got to make it, not wholly unpleasant, but a bit tough to be here, rather than here's your hotel room, here's your PlayStation, and you fancy a bit of Arsenal versus Man United at the weekend.
You're headlining at Fabric on Saturday night.
Yeah, exactly. You don't need to be barbaric about it, but it shouldn't be an attractive lifestyle.
I don't think it is an attractive lifestyle.
And then secondly, we need to process your application quickly.
Absolutely.
I think with quite a high burden upon you to prove that you really are seeking asylum, quite a burden on the individual themselves, rather than just putting their hand in the air and saying, I'm seeking asylum. And that needs to be done very quickly. I say, my aim would be 18 days, not 18 months.
Well, the Conservatives left a deficit, was it 180,000 backlog?
I'm not defending their record.
What we need is the department to go back and work 5 days a week.
This government doesn't seem to be any better at it.
Pose a question here, which is that if people are genuinely concerned about resentment building up between communities, and in this case, what I mean by communities are legal residents and illegal migrants, right? Then maybe the best.
Well, they're not illegal.
Well, I think they technically still are, even though Labour
they entered the country illegally.
That law. But yes,
it's not illegal.
But the best way to remove animosity and resentment, I would argue, is to try to make it so that it doesn't appear like if you arrive in Britain illegally, you get everything given for you. But if you work and your husband or wife works on a £30,000 a year job and you've got a couple of kids, that you have to scrimp and save for absolutely everything, and you can't even afford a £10 bottle of wine at the weekends. I mean, that's... I think,
let alone a PlayStation.
Patrick, there are many EU states that will put you in detention camps if you enter their country illegally. Yet if we talk about in this country, suddenly we're the Nazis, right? Unbelievable how people hold us to different standards to the EU that they so-called want to be in as well. There is a case that I read on the way here of a Pakistani asylum seeker was just granted £100,000 compensation because he was made to feel like a criminal because he overstayed his welcome here when he was meant to return home. £100,000. Imagine what the average
Where did you read that?
could do that. It's in the papers. I think it's the Telegraph.
Of course it would be the telephone.
I mean, I actually wonder whether we need to be open-minded to provide some, maybe one or two, safe routes of entry. I'm not exactly how sure you do it, but
absolutely.
But you build some
massive,
massive complex. I don't know, at Stansted Airport, for sake of argument, or Luton, or wherever you wish to build it.
Or Calais.
And you say or Calais, if the French would allow us. And you say if you wish to apply for asylum, you must come in through one of these routes. Buy yourself a Ryanair ticket. Don't give the gangs, thousands of euros to go on a risky dinghy. But we expect you to turn up with your paperwork. We will process you there. It should take, half an hour a person. And if the answer's no, I'm afraid you'll be sent straight back from whence you came. I think that would be the way to smash the gangs.
But they also
and we have to process it
within
incredibly
Europe,
quickly.
there should be. In France, there should be a way
But then there is no
of
excuse for entering the country other than through one of those safe routes.
Once we get those set up.
The driving lessons for me is just the icing.
That's ridiculous, yeah.
Really. I mean, there are kids in this country who cannot afford driving lessons. Their parents can't afford driving lessons, let alone getting them a car to practice it. I mean, I do find that
I draw the line at circus skills.
There is now...
The
middle class is now being squeezed so hard from this Labour government. There's going to be middle classes losing their houses this year and next year. And yet we're looking at these hotels, they're getting fed 3 times a day and all these luxuries. We're having the mickey taken out of us by the ruling classes, and it needs to stop.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. And, the idea that we're instead of maybe teaching them how to integrate or whatever, that we might teach them how to juggle plates, I just find absolutely baffling. But anyway, in case you're worried about the fact that we appear to be giving everything to illegal migrants for free, what we here at GB News thought we'd give you something, OK? So we are giving you 2 chances. Oh, they get better. 2 chances to win our latest Great British giveaway. 2 amazing prize bundles. Here's all you need to know about if you want to be in it to win it.
The Great British Giveaway is officially 1 year old, and we have a birthday treat for you. We're giving you not 1, but 2 chances to win this month, with 2 prize bundles that include an incredible £10,000 in tax-free cash. But that's not all. You'll also get a brand new iPhone 16 and a £500 shopping voucher to spend at your favourite store. So why not be extra lucky this month? For a chance to win an iPhone, vouchers and £10,000 in cash, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB11 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 7th of March. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Well, coming up, I've got all of tomorrow's newspaper front pages, and there's a big one, because the Tories have finally come up with a policy, and it's on the front of the Telegraph, so I'll reveal all very shortly. But first, well, look, very serious story, this. A damning report into the Southport killer Axel Rudy Cabana has laid bare a catalogue of fatal errors and oversights. I'll reveal all, and I'll be joined by Katie Amos, who was the daughter, of course, of the murdered MP, Sir David Amos. She's got some incredibly harsh words for the authorities, and I think, frankly, we should all listen to her, so stay tuned.
If you want your news to be straight talking... This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again. Down to earth. It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it? And most importantly, honest. Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them. Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date. Or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
People living with obesity are people, and they deserve the right for treatment and care as much as anyone else. What we need to understand is that obesity is a chronic condition, or a disease, as some people call it. It's not a choice. And this is the bit that people really struggle with, is that people think this is a lifestyle choice and people have done this to themselves. What we now know is the science and the evidence shows us that this isn't a choice. People have genetic predispositions for living with obesity. What we need to do is be a bit more compassionate and caring to people that live with obesity and support them to make healthier choices, not actually just discriminate and tell them that they're doing something wrong when, you know, if I had asthma, for instance, you wouldn't be saying the same thing to me there. But then it's exactly the same.
Usually, if you're going for an operation of some form or other, there'll be often there is a criteria. So my mother, she had a knee operation. They wanted to make sure her blood pressure was right and all these things. This is, I mean, to hear somebody say that obesity isn't a choice just because you've got genetic predisposition to it, it's just exactly why people seem to be legitimizing being overweight. Ozempic has proved that people are overweight because they eat too much. Because Ozempic tells you to stop eating, it makes you think that you've eaten and makes you feel full, so you don't eat. You may be predisposed to anything, but you also have a large percentage of responsibility to make sure that doesn't happen. So absolutely, it is in the patient's best interests, because if you're overweight, it'll take you longer to heal. You're more likely to have complications, the same if you smoke, and also the outcomes are usually better. So for a smoker, if you quit, say 4 weeks before surgery, you're 25%, your risk is lower of respiratory complications. So this is literally, of course it's discriminatory, because you have to decide, you have to prioritise the people that are likely to survive the operations.
GB News, the People's Channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. OK, so I've got all of tomorrow's newspaper front pages shortly, including, apparently, the Tories have got a new policy, which I'll be revealing to you. But first, a damning review into the government's Prevent scheme has today found that Southport killer Axel Rudikabana should have been treated as a terror threat. In a catastrophic error, officers concluded that he had a lack of terrorist ideology, despite Rudikabana's referrals to the scheme for researching school shootings and the Manchester bombings, and apparently calling them a good thing. So it comes on the same day that a separate report revealed systematic and deadly failings in the mental health care of Valdo Calacane, a paranoid schizophrenic who refused to take his medication, was released into the public and went on to kill 3 people in Nottingham in June 2023. Speaking at a press conference earlier today, the mother of Barnaby Webber, who was murdered by Calacane, accused the authorities of trying to cover up their failings.
Without the noise we have had to make, without the support and guidance we've received from our legal and support team, I am certain that our story, this tragedy and this disgraceful miscarriage of justice would have been, as I suspect the agencies and the CPS had hoped, brushed under the carpet.
Well, talking of failings, the government also announced today that a review into Prevent's handling of Sir David Amos's murderer will actually now be released next week. Well, I'm very pleased to say that joining me now is the daughter of Sir David Amos, Katie Amos. Katie, thank you very much. It's great to have you on the show. There appears to be a pattern there from those 3 stories rolled into one, which is systematic and deadly failings by the authorities, and then at least the initial attempt at a cover-up. How do you feel about that?
I mean, it's just beyond stupidity. And if it wasn't for the media, we wouldn't have even had a chance to get our stories out there. These are repeat failings that are happening, and then the government and the police scramble to cover it up, and they try and brush it under the carpet and hope you will go away. But we're not going to go away, and we're going to fight to get answers. So it's extremely upsetting to watch that in that case that was just up, that the same thing happened to them, and the heartbreak that you've been through as a family. And then to add on top of it, the people that you thought would help you, the police and the government, trying to just get rid of you and silence you, and it's not okay.
So the initial finding there was that I think, frankly, what all of us know is that Axel Rudikabana should have been treated as a terror threat, and that was missed, OK? Now, they are now, I believe, releasing a report into the killer of your father. Do you have any idea about what might be in that report? Do you have any idea about what the findings might be?
Well, I know what's in that report because they sent it to me, I think probably about 18 months ago. I was made to sign a document to say I will not tell anybody what is in it. Otherwise, I will either go to prison or I will be fined a large amount of money. So I was silenced. Now, all of a sudden, Southport happens 3.5 years later, and all of a sudden they can quickly release the Southport learning review and do an inquiry. Well, what about me and everybody else that this has happened to? You can't pick and choose who you're going to help, and they don't want the report out because it's going to embarrass them and it's going to justify even more my calls for an inquiry when everybody sees the utter stupidity of the people running these organisations.
So I don't want to get you in any legal trouble here, obviously, and I know you don't want to do that to yourself. They are now going to release this report into your father's killer and the failings. I'm assuming they were failings. Clearly, well, they were because it happened. You think that's going to be devastating, do you?
I think it's going to be very damning for them. And I'm also going to make sure that just because they've released this report, which is, let's be honest, it's just a piece of paper, nobody's been held accountable. I'm going to make sure that they can't just release that document and then think they can wash their hands of me, because they can't. Because myself and everybody else that has been failed deserves an inquiry to find out what went wrong, who made the mistakes, to hold them accountable and to make sure this doesn't happen again. Because had we have done an inquiry 3.5 years ago when this happened to my father, perhaps these other atrocities wouldn't have happened.
Now, that's an interesting point. So you think that potentially, if you hadn't have been made to keep quiet about the report into what happened to your father, if the public had been made aware about exactly what led up to that, that maybe changes would have been made and possibly we would not even be talking about Southport incident?
I don't want to make the unbearable pain and the heartache for the victims' families even worse. But I do think that had somebody had listened to us when it happened to my dad and immediately launched an inquiry. Axel is the same profile as the guy that did it to my dad. These are lone young men in their bedrooms, surfing the internet, getting these crazy ideas. The public are reporting them, and Prevent is just taking them for a coffee and letting them go. I think that had that have been investigated, potentially the outcome would have been different, because everybody would have known, you know, what to look for. This is a new type of terrorism that we're seeing. And it's just a bit funny to me how I could not possibly have had this report released. And I absolutely cannot have my inquest resumed, and I cannot have an inquiry. Yet with Southport, all of a sudden, these things can happen.
And your dad was an MP and a Knight of the Realm as well. And you think if you can't get that out there for someone of that esteem in British society, then goodness gracious me, what chance have the rest of us got, really? And you look at them. I've interviewed the mother of Barnaby Webber, Emma Webber, a couple of times, bless her. And, you know, the idea that she was having it hidden from her, that her son's killer, should never have been allowed to prowl the streets at all, that he wasn't taking his medication, that there were numerous different failings that led up to it. And it does build this perception, at least, of a cover-up. But I've got to ask you, Katie, you know, we talk about people being held to account here. You know, who are those people? Who is it, and what do you want to see happen?
Well, whoever made the decision after they took the guy that did it to my dad out for a cup of coffee and said, "Are you a terrorist?" And he said no. And then they said, "OK, we'll let him go." Whoever made that decision needs to be held accountable. Whoever then, due to an admin error, didn't follow up and subsequently re-interview him, which was what was meant to happen, needs to be held accountable. The police need to be held accountable, because there was a threat the night before, which is what I keep saying, and I know it wasn't related, but if a sitting politician has a threat against him, you should absolutely send protection to his surgery the next day. That did not happen, and the police have completely evaded me. They keep releasing these canned responses, absolutely gaslighting me. I launched a complaint against them on Boxing Day. It's now I think it's the 4th of February today.
Haven't heard
a peep from them. They need to be held accountable as well. I'm not just going to go away. And I spoke to Yvette Cooper last week and I said, I presume that because you've immediately been able to launch an inquiry into Southport, you will be doing one for me. And she was unable to confirm that because she wasn't the Home Secretary at the time. I don't accept that as an excuse. Numerous inquiries have been launched where that person wasn't the Home Secretary at the time. So I'm not going to accept that, and I'm not just going to go away.
No, well, good for you. And thank you very, very much for coming on, not just this show, but others as well, and talking about it and being so vocal about it. I'm very sorry that when we do talk, it has to be about something like this. As devastating and as awful as the catalogue of events that we've discussed this evening. But, Katie, it is much appreciated to have you on. And I do wish you and your family all the very, very best going forward. It's Katie Amos there, who's, of course, the daughter of Sir David Amos, MP. Well, thank you very much. I mean, it's remarkable to hear that all, isn't it? Gosh. Well, things need to change, things need to happen. I think everybody can agree with that. Coming up, the first of tomorrow's newspaper front pages have landed. Breaking news for you, I'll reveal in just about 2 minutes' time, which is that the Tories have finally come up with a policy. Hey!
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hi there. If you're looking for some winter sun, you will find a little in the Greek islands, although it will be windy. Fine in Italy and across much of Iberia, although it is going to turn more unsettled through Iberia and, in fact, Central Europe as these weather systems move in during the next few days. But for Thursday, at least, plenty of sunshine for Italy. We've got that strong wind blowing through the Greek islands and a few showers associated with it. Otherwise, largely fine. And then the more unsettled weather arrives at the weekend.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello again and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Skies will clear across the UK overnight, leading to a widespread frost, but a sunny day for most of us on Thursday. High pressure is why we're seeing clear skies. Sunshine has been prevalent across England and Wales. We've seen showers further north, but as that high pressure builds in from the south, skies will clear up and down the country. Just some patchy cloud there for the Highlands and a bit more of a breeze for the north and west of Scotland, perhaps along the south and southeast coast of England. Otherwise, with light winds for the vast majority and those clear skies, we'll see a widespread frost. Temperatures in main urban areas, -1 to 1 or 2 Celsius, but in sheltered parts of the countryside as low as -5 Celsius first thing. So it will be a chilly start to Thursday, but look at this, plenty of sunshine across the map there. Just some patchy cloud running into Kent, and there'll also be some patches of fog and cloud here and there elsewhere. But for the vast majority, it's just going to be a chilly and frosty but bright start to Thursday. Bright blue day follows with plenty of sunshine remaining. Any fog patches that we'll see in the morning will burn away during the morning into the lunchtime period. Patches of cloud here and there, and increasingly so across East Anglia and the southeast, so less sunshine by the afternoon in these locations. A bit more of a breeze coming in as well. That breeze will make it feel cold, but on the whole, temperatures around average for the time of year, 7 to 9 Celsius. Similar on Friday morning, but I think in the south we'll see a bit more cloud through the night and hence less widespread frost, but we'll also see increasingly some showers arriving into the south and southeast of England. Meanwhile, the best of the sunshine will be across Scotland and Northern Ireland, and into the start of the weekend that cloud will become more widespread, particularly in the south, thick enough to give some sleety or snowy weather at times.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point. He's lying. I mean, maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Welcome back, everybody, and it's time for tomorrow's newspaper front pages. Big one is this, The Telegraph. The breaking news right now is this. Tories to kick out low-paid migrants. On the front of the Daily Telegraph, first major new policy for Kemi Badenoch as she seeks to combat the threat from reform. I'll read what they've put in the Telegraph, and then I'll tell you the way this has been reported on the BBC. So, jobless and low-paid migrants would be barred from settling indefinitely in the UK under the first major Conservative policy announcement by Kemi Badenoch. The Tory leader is proposing that migrants who've entered the UK legally should only be allowed to apply for indefinite leave to remain once they've been in the country for 10 years, double the current 5-year threshold. I will say to you that the BBC, as far as I can tell, are currently reporting that she said that it needs to be 15 years. So there is a bit of confusion as to how many years she wants them to be in. We're going to return to this. I'll just give you some of the front pages, right, and then we'll go back to that. The Daily Mirror, failed by the state. This is the families of the 3 Nottingham victims and the families of those killed by Axel Rudy Cabana. We've just covered that topic here. Daily Mail. Kemi, I'll ban migrants who claim benefits from becoming UK citizens. This is another aspect of her new policy, the first major policy. If you have come to this country and you've claimed benefits or social housing, according to Kemi Badenoch, you will never be allowed to become a citizen. Let's go to The Sun. I wasn't to blame for Liam's death. This is Liam Payne's heartbroken girlfriend, Kate, who has gone on record now to say that she was not to blame for his sad passing. The Metro. Failures and cover-ups on an epic level. It's shameful. Those stories that we did just cover again, Axel Rudy Cabana and Valdo Calacane, Nottingham killer. Well, let's zone in on Kemi Badenoch's first major policy announcement. What do you make of this, Mark?
Good stuff. Not before time. I've processed it. As you say, there seems to be some confusion about the precise numbers. But she's set out here something which I think you can say is a robust position. If you wish to become a British citizen, you've got to pay your way. That seems to be the basic principle here. She's got plenty of time to work out the details. I'm delighted she's now starting to lay out positions, at least. And look, I think the way to look at it is this. If you were to take all of government spending and divide it between the 70 million people who presently populate these isles, that comes out at about 17,200 quid each. If you want to join as a citizen, you've got to be paying that or more. That's the basic principle. And that's roughly what she's alluding to here. If you're a drain on the state, you've been in social housing, you've been on benefits, you're a low earner, well, unfortunately, that just puts up the burden on the rest of us. So I think this is, I mean, she definitely needs to do this. She's, you know, slipping a little bit behind reform in the polls. But, you know, good. Right. I'm pleased.
I don't know. I can hear some people, I think, shouting at their television screens or radio sets saying, well, we've heard this all before from the Tories.
Look, I'm a former Conservative voter since I was 18. I've been thanked by certain Tory MPs for supporting them online over the years. But what she has said here is total sense and what should happen. It won't happen under the Conservatives because they've been making these sort of promises for 14 years and doing the opposite. There are Lib Dems within their ranks that will never let them get this policy through. So why should I listen to the Tories on false promises again? For me, it is only reform that will end up deporting and stopping this abuse of our system.
I'll put a quote from Kemi Badenoch to you, Nina. She's reported as saying, "Our country is not a dormitory, it's our home. The right to citizenship and permanent residency should only go to those who have demonstrated a real commitment to the UK." Your views?
Well, that's fair enough. I agree, but this smacks of complete desperation to me because of reforms showing in the polls. And, you know, again, it's sheer hypocrisy. It's the Conservatives who lost control of our borders. They are the ones who... Boris Johnson opened the door with legal migration, and the boats before Brexit...
Some of them do arrive before Brexit,
exactly,
to be fair, but yes,
2019, there were only 1,800. So it's the Tories who've lost control of them. And so, but she's hopeless, isn't she? I mean, she's just clutching at straws here.
But hang on, what are you supposed to do? I mean, walk a mile in her shoes. She's taken over the Conservative Party after a total shellacking. I agree with a lot of criticism of the previous Conservative government, so she has to go through a good degree of mea culpa, what we got wrong. She has to accept that. And I don't think she can just apologise. I think she needs to explain why. I don't think why it went so badly wrong. But what's she supposed to do? Curl up into a fetal position and announce nothing?
But listen, but I was going to say...
I mean, she's surely, as the leader of the opposition, is supposed to set out policies and positions.
Yeah.
And this is a pretty good one.
4.5 years time.
Sit in Parliament a few years ago. Isn't there a viral video that's going around of her support...
On student visas.
Immigration.
I mean, there is a bit of a difference there between a visa to come as a student and permanent remain, you know, becoming a citizen of Britain. And, you know, so it does get a bit complicated. You might have different rules for somebody who wants to come over and do 3 years at university compared to somebody who wants to spend the rest of their life here. So this is on
that system is also abused. The student system is abused.
I agree with you.
For someone like me to look at her past record and her past rhetoric, and now for her to suddenly flex her muscles and say we're going to do this, it's very hard to believe.
But you prefer that she was coming out with this rather than saying, well, actually having open borders is a perfectly good idea.
Of course,
you know, this is a step in the right direction. It's going to take her a long, long time to get the Conservative Party back.
What I find
not a bad start.
What I find strange is that, OK, if you've been on benefits and you're obviously just sitting on the system, then I understand your application for citizenship should be looked at. But low-paid workers, what a snobby thing. Low-paid. Define low-paid workers. Low-paid workers could be in the building trade. We need builders. We need cleaners. We need people who are prepared to do all the menial tasks in social care that people in this country don't want to do or can't be bothered doing.
You're going to need to pay.
Well, who are the low-paid workers?
Otherwise, we're subsidising them.
Who are the low-paid workers?
People who are paying less than £17,000 a year in tax.
And what would they be doing in that case?
What do you mean, what would they be doing?
I mean, what job would they be doing to be only paid?
You've probably given a range.
A cleaner, perhaps?
Right, but the problem...
Don't we need cleaners?
The problem we've got with cleaners is if they are paying less than £17,000, the rest of us are subsidising.
Yeah, but
there's a wider problem.
Does it say in this piece £17,000?
No, it doesn't. I'm just saying that's the average.
OK. I completely disagree with this low-paid wages thing. I mean, that's completely snobby and ridiculous.
OK, so just quickly on this now. So President Trump has certainly ruffled some feathers with his plan to build the Riviera of the Middle East in Gaza. Let's just take a listen about what he proposed during this press conference.
The U.S. will take over the Gaza Strip, and we will do a job with it, too. We'll own it and be responsible for dismantling all of the dangerous unexploded bombs and other weapons on the site, level the site and get rid of the destroyed buildings, level it out, create an economic development that will supply unlimited numbers of jobs and housing for the people of the area.
Well, it's going to be, what is it, the MAGA Strip, is it? What do you think?
I was almost expecting the curtains to be pulled back and him already to have the blueprints of Trump Tower and what it was going to look like.
The architectural model.
MAGA loop, which actually is,
It's inflammatory. I'm a lover of Donald Trump. There was no There was no need to say that. And that's not going to happen.
I think that's the first time Netanyahu heard that.
Well, the thing is, what was obscene is watching these two fraudsters who are standing there and then not a word about people, humanity.
I misheard you. Democratically voted, elected.
Fraudsters, and grifters, and all about money and power. All about money.
You're like Starmer.
You talked about the lawyers earlier. My God.
I'd have to do something for the lawyers now and say that I imagine that Donald Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu would deny that they are both fraudsters and grifters. But coming up, all of the rest of tomorrow's newspaper front pages. Stay tuned.
Lee Anderson's Real World, Fridays from 7 p.m.
That's football.
Wow,
you know, it's the hope that kills you.
It does. It gives you highs, it gives you lows. I mean, if you're an Everton fan at the moment, you probably had far too many lows. But as you know, I'm a Nottingham Forest fan.
Well, you must be having a huge high.
But, you had one of the greatest footballers ever to grace the game, Mike, and that was Dixie Dean.
Yeah, absolutely. William Ralph Dean. Didn't like being called Dixie, but that was his nickname. And he was born in 1907. He was my grandfather's best mate. I'm an Everton shareholder. I've been, attached to the club all my life, and so was my father, so was my grandfather, our greatest ever player.
So back in the day when players like Dixie Dean were playing football for big crowds in, a proper...
72,000.
Yeah, a proper working class sport back in the day, weren't it, football? Not like it is today. You've got to be pretty wealthy to afford a ticket.
Even in the 70s, right, and I've seen some, I do like looking back on the football that I watched as a kid. Even in the 70s now, I've seen pictures of the turnstiles, as we used to call them, with a sign at the top, 5 shillings for the Eastern Terrace. 5 shillings. Yeah. Last time I turned down a ticket to go to a football match was Arsenal, who wanted me to pay £830 for a seat in an executive lounge. And though I could have afforded it, because I've worked all my life like you, I just thought at that point, that's ridiculous.
Well, you should have told him you were Keir Starmer's security man. You'd have probably got him for nothing.
Yeah, well, that's a good idea. Yeah.
But you go back to the the 1930s and 1940s, even the 1960s and 70s. The footballers would walk to the ground and play a game, and then walk back and go for a few beers in the pub.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Well, let's just do 2 more front pages before I reveal some more breaking news for you. Excuse me. The Daily Express failed. This is, again, the families of the Nottingham... the people who were killed by Valdo Calacani in Nottingham. The Times now. Social media cancer puts children's lives at risk. That's the front page. Look, I just want to bring you some breaking news, which is that Grenfell Tower is going to be demolished, apparently. So the government has, this evening, said that they are going to demolish Grenfell Tower. This is actually, it turns out, more controversial than maybe many people thought, because Grenfell United, which represents some of the survivors and bereaved, have actually hit out of this decision, saying that we've said this to every Secretary of State for Housing since the very beginning, consult the bereaved and survivors meaningfully before reaching a decision on the tower. Angela Rayner could not give a reason for her decision to demolish it. So apparently Labour have not consulted the families, but they are going to knock Grenfell Tower down.
Well, that may be a bit inconsiderate, I guess, in terms of the optics, but surely it needs to be knocked down, right? I mean, I can't... it's a bit weird it's taken this long. I mean, knock it down, build something else there. It's a horrible story. I'm still not sure we've learnt all the lessons of it, really. No. You've got to give tenants a lot more power to sort out their own living conditions rather than being bunged up in a bureaucracy of property developers and local councils. So, yeah, perhaps they should have put in a few courtesy phone calls, but to me, it doesn't look like a controversial decision.
No. Look, for me, it's a huge monument of death. Yeah. And... surely it's unsafe. No one's ever going to want to live in there again. So there is no other option but to knock that down. But what I would say is possibly a community centre or something that stays there and gives back to the community and maybe the local youth would be a good use of the land.
I mean, look, more detail is obviously going to come out about all of this tomorrow, so we're going to have to wait for that. But the decision, as it stands this evening, is that Grenfell's going to be demolished, and the families of some of the survivors and bereaved are saying they weren't consulted. How do you feel about this, Nina?
Well, I agree with the other two. Of course, it's got to be knocked down at some point, and it's got to be done in a sensitive way. It's been covered up in a sensitive way. Yeah. But it's got to go. I think that the government said they wouldn't do anything until after the next anniversary, which is the 8th anniversary. Coming up this summer, I think.
Well, we've got a statement here from a government spokesperson who's said this. The priority for the Deputy Prime Minister is to meet with and write to the bereaved, survivors and the immediate community to let them know her decision on the future of Grenfell Tower. It's a deeply personal matter for all those affected, and the Deputy Prime Minister is committed to keeping their voice at the heart of this. Well, that does, I must admit, at face value seem slightly bizarre because the decision has leaked. Yeah. So that doesn't appear to be the case. I'm going to whiz us over now, though, to headliners presented tonight by Josh Howie, of course. And Josh, would you mind telling us what you've got coming up on your show, please?
Well, we've got Kemi Badenoch. She's got some actual policies. What are they and how much they take it to reform? We've got golf courses in Gaza. And we have all of the best, most interesting and funniest stories from actually inside tomorrow's papers as well. It's going to be a great show. We've got great comics. Please do join us.
Absolutely. Look, make sure you keep it GB News. Headlines are the perfect way to round off your evening. It's the best way to spend the last hour of the day with Josh and the gang, so make sure that you do that. Right, well, all that remains to be said for me is to say a massive thank you to my wonderful panel, actually. We've carved our way through a couple of big breaking news stories tonight as well, so thank you very much, everybody. I will be back with you tomorrow at 9 p.m, where hopefully I will have a lot more to go at. Thank you, everybody who's watching, not just live, but also watching on catch-up as well, because I know there are a heck of a lot of you out there, and all of our radio listeners as well. It is always, of course, much, much, much appreciated. Make sure that you get in touch with us as well on gbviews@gbnews.com, or by going to Your Say to get in touch with us to tell us what you would like to see on the shows going forward. I will see you tomorrow at 9 p.m, but before all of that, of course, it is time to find out what's going on with the latest weather where you are.
Despite the morning rain, it'll be a nice, warm, cosy day ahead. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello again and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Skies will clear across the UK overnight, leading to a widespread frost, but a sunny day for most of us on Thursday. High pressure is why we're seeing clear skies. Sunshine has been prevalent across England and Wales. We've seen showers further north, but as that high pressure builds in from the south, skies will clear up and down the country. Just some patchy cloud there for the Highlands and a bit more of a breeze for the north and west of Scotland, perhaps along the south and southeast coast of England. Otherwise, with light winds for the vast majority and those clear skies, we'll see a widespread frost. Temperatures in main urban areas, -1 to 1 or 2 Celsius, but in sheltered parts of the countryside as low as -5 Celsius first thing. So it will be a chilly start to Thursday, but look at this, plenty of sunshine across the map there. Just some patchy cloud running into Kent, and there'll also be some patches of fog and cloud here and there elsewhere. But for the vast majority, it's just going to be a chilly and frosty but bright start to Thursday. Bright blue day follows with plenty of sunshine remaining. Any fog patches that we'll see in the morning will burn away during the morning into the lunchtime period. Patches of cloud here and there, and increasingly so across East Anglia and the southeast, so less sunshine by the afternoon in these locations. A bit more of a breeze coming in as well. That breeze will make it feel cold, but on the whole, temperatures around average for the time of year, 7 to 9 Celsius. Similar on Friday morning, but I think in the south we'll see a bit more cloud through the night and hence less widespread frost, but we'll also see increasingly some showers arriving into the south and southeast of England. Meanwhile, the best of the sunshine will be across Scotland and Northern Ireland, and into the start of the weekend that cloud will become more widespread, particularly in the south, thick enough to give some sleety or snowy weather at times.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
We're giving you not one, but 2 chances to win this month, with 2 prize bundles that include an incredible £10,000 in tax-free cash. But that's not all. You'll also get a brand new iPhone 16 and a £500 shopping voucher to spend at your favourite store. So why not be extra lucky this month? For a chance to win an iPhone, vouchers and £10,000 in cash, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB11 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 7th of March. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
This is